Okay, so yesterday I was messing about with making a jellyfish, and this is what I came up with. Um, this wasn't really a serious attempt. I was just sort of testing out to see how the transparency and stuff would look. I just threw glass textures on it. So it's not exactly jellyfish-esque, but messing around in plasticity, just seeing how I could get the shapes and forms. You can see obviously I didn't, shape the bell or anything very nicely, but what I did was I used one of the new features, constrained surfaces, to make the little tendrils. And I think that's a cool tool for organic shapes. So that's what I want to have a bit of a mess with now. Now, what I did yesterday to make those tendrils was I created just a spiral and I did a constrained surface on top of that. So I've got constrained surface in my favorites here. And all I did was basically just randomly sort of followed my way down the spiral to see what would happen. And I sort of messed around with this a little bit and found that doing fairly regular selections was the way to go. If it was too sparse, didn't really make a very interesting shape. You can see I've got some wacky surface here. It's a very unpredictable function, which it's the first release of this function, so it doesn't really you know do anything super practical yet. Um, but you can see I just got this weird, interesting sort of organic shape. Um, and if I stretch it around and shrink it and stuff, um, I can get more interesting looks out of it. And obviously, I can change what angle I want here by using the V key to change my pivot. So there we go, sort of flatten that out like that. That's not a very good one. I don't like that at all, but you see what I'm doing here. And it's just a matter of, sort of, oops, that's the wrong command. Just sort of a matter of playing around with this till you get a shape you like. Um, Maybe I had too many selections there, or they were, all on the same angle or something. Um, Try something with a bit less section. That's cooler. Uh, so if we shrink this down a bit and shrink it down this way, and we get a kind of cool tendrily shape there. So I think that's a pretty interesting technique for just getting these little tendrils to work. Um, Today, what I want to kind of work on more is getting the bell shape, and I've already had a little bit of a play with this idea, and it kind of worked. So what I did, well, it doesn't really matter what I did. What I'm going to do now is try and advance what I was messing with just a little bit earlier. So I'm going to create a square, and then I'm going to put my pivot on the corner, and I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees because I want to work sort of in this direction. And then I'm going to grab the top of it. I want to rotate the top, and again I'm going to move my pivot over here because I want to flatten that down and I sort of get my shape. I probably want it to be a bit taller, so I'm just going to offset this face up higher. And this is the sort of thing that I'm probably going to mess with a lot to try and figure out what the optimal thing for this is. Now what I'm going to do is grab my constrained surface again, and if you want to find a constrained surface, it's down here in the menu, but again I've just put it in my favorites because I'm using it a lot. And I'm going to start up the top here and then go on the sides, this front corner, and see what we get, which is a weird... Now interestingly, sometimes when you do these things like I did there, it was kind of symmetrical, but it hasn't given me a symmetrical shape at all, which is unusual. And I do wonder if I do exactly the same again. So constrained surface, that one, and then the front two, will it give me the same shape again? It did. Okay, so we know that's consistent at least. So don't do the same thing twice. Let's try going down the front first, and then we'll pull the sides. And it's giving me the same shape again. So that's interesting. Same vertices, same shape, but I've done it in a different order. What if we try those two, and then we go to the top? Interesting that it's not doing them symmetrically. Because my previous experiments have been kind of symmetrical. I wonder if I change it to the z-axis, because we're sitting on the y-axis at the moment. I wonder if I change axes. So we'll rotate it, and I'll grab the edge again. We'll go another 45 degrees this way. And let's have a look and see if that changes at all what we get. So I'll do the same as I did for the original. Do the sides and then the front. And that is a different shape. So that's interesting, isn't it? That it's exactly the same geometry that I'm constraining to, just on a different angle in the world. So I wonder how it actually, sort of makes that determination. Now, what I'm thinking, and this is kind of what I was messing with earlier on, was doing something like this. I should be able to come up with a little sort of curved shape, which obviously you could do fairly simply with lofts and stuff, but I wanted to mess with this particular function. And I think part of the beauty of this, doing it this way, is you don't know what you're going to get, so you can have that happy accident thing, which is always so good for an artist. And I mean, these previews are really kind of useless. You can't really tell what it's doing. So that's more what I'm looking for. I'll just hide that. And this is more sort of the shape that I want to get. So if I get something like this with, if I grab the side, I want more of a curve here. But I am looking for a shape like this. Ideally, I probably want it to curve around more at the sides as well. And then I could radially array these. And that would give us, if I quickly just Google jellyfish, what I want. And I'm not huge on using reference. Usually, I'm a bit of a rebel in that way. But if we have a look at some jellyfish, it's not exactly what I wanted. But if we can get this guy to pop up, jellyfish have these, or not all jellyfish, but a lot of jellyfish have these sort of little, I don't know what they're called, but blobby bits around the outside, and then some smaller bits and whatever. But what I want to try and do is try and get that happy accident where I kind of get this shape, and then we can radially array it and do that, and then we can sort of loft between them, and maybe we can get a cool organic jellyfish without having to do very much. I don't mean that in like let's make the laziest jellyfish we possibly can, but in terms of quickly iterating, prototyping, just getting something cool. That's kind of cool. I like that. But again, it hasn't given us a symmetrical, and that's something that I'm finding. Well, it's actually the opposite of the original curve, I think, or the original sheet. And I'm finding this kind of interesting with this tool. Like, how does it function? Obviously, order of selection doesn't mean much. I'm just gonna. Oh, that's not really on an angle I want. So again, I'm just gonna snap. Whoop, that didn't work. I want to snap my snap my thing for offsetting. Actually, I think I can just move this face. Yeah, that'll do. Let's just make the cube taller and see what happens with it in this shape. I might just ignore the top faces for now. Alright, so that's curved underneath. Again, not symmetrical. In fact, it's not even, you know, that edge is not even aligned with this front face, which is where we selected. So let's try doing it while we're snapped to this view. Top, right, left, and in the middle. It's made a different shape, but again, it's not at all symmetrical. So what I'm thinking, because this is basically the technique I was using earlier, so I know that the principle of this, using a shape like this, is decent. Maybe pull that all the way down. You know what I might do? If it'll let me do this. I'm not sure whether it will. But if we imprint that, I've got my edges turned off so you can actually see it. If I imprint that, what will it let me do here? It'll let me move that. What will it do if I rotate this face? So they are separate. So what I want to do maybe is grab that. If it'll let me, no, it's only going to let me slide it. Oh, that's weird. That could be cool for this though. Interesting. All right, let's try something like that. Not at all what I expected, but that could be an interesting, so, you know, kind of replicating the shape of what I want. And now we'll see what the constrained surface can make of it. So I'm going to grab a few this time, get both sides of there, get both sides at the bottom, and grab that. This one does look kind of symmetrical, although it's looks like it's probably concave. Oh no, it is convex. It's only concave up here. So that's interesting, isn't it? Again, not symmetrical. So let's grab you. I like this side. So let's grab that. I don't really want that seam down the middle though. So maybe I've got a couple of choices. I can either freeform mirror it along here where it's at the apex of that curve, or I could adjust the curve itself. I think I'll try the mirror. I think I'll freeform mirror it. So freestyle somewhere around there. No, that's not good either. Why isn't that? Something around there is kind of cool, but I do wonder. Let's go fully top view. Okay, so that's where the apex is. So Alt X for mirror, F for our freestyle, and that should give us a nice curve. It's a little bit pointy maybe. Join these two together, and then I'll see if it'll let me fully join these without that line. Doesn't look like it's going to work. But still, that shape's, you know, this probably isn't going to get me exactly what I want, but it's a good start. So I'm going to move this out a bit. And my scale's in meters at the moment, so this is a very big jellyfish, but that doesn't matter. Pull up our menu with F, and I'm going to type in radial, get a radial array. Again, I'm going to hit V to move my center point, and we'll do something like this. I'm going to just go with 6, because 6 by 6 is 36 or 360 degrees, which is something I like to do. And there we've basically got that, I didn't keep the window, but we've basically got that jellyfish shape of those broad strokes. Just going to change my selection to edges only to make this a bit easier. I'm just going to hit L to loft between them. That looks pretty good. And we'll loft these two. And that looks pretty good and pretty similar. I had a little problem earlier when I was doing this. Obviously my first one, or the ones I duplicated weren't symmetrical. So when I did this, it didn't work very well. And this is sort of as far as I went with the earlier experiment. Loft those two and loft these two. So you can see there, that's a pretty quick way to get an interesting organic shape, which, you know, I'm definitely an artist using plasticity, not a CAD person using plasticity. So, you know, finding ways to get cool organic shapes is pretty important to me. Sorry, I went a bit quick there. So we've got all these sheets here, and we don't want a billion sheets. Things start slowing down, whatever. So I just select them all and join them with J, and there we have a single sheet. And if you're an artist person or new to plasticity, you can see we can still select all these things. This is still not polygonal geometry. This is still all splines and NURBS, and it's all maths in the background, basically. So even though you've got these edges, you know, they're not edges in the same way that polygonal geometry is. I don't really understand how all that works, but I'm picking it up as I go. And you see if we turn them off, these ones are not at all smooth. And that was that room when I said it was a bit pointy. I should have actually turned the edges off and checked, because that's not what we want at all. What I might be able to do, oh, whoa, it's gone a bit nuts. I might be able to bevel these out, or fillet these out, or it might just, for whatever reason, because this is one of the things that you get with plasticity, is sometimes it's just like, no, you can't do that, and you're left wondering why. So does that really solve it? Not as much as I'd like, but it's you know, it's okay. So I'm just going to restrict my selection to edges again by hitting 2. So I can only select edges now. I'm going to grab all of these. I must have missed some because I definitely haven't done 6. I don't feel like I've done 6. Maybe I have. I guess I have. So select all these and just do them at once. And somewhere around 30 that worked nicely. And I'm just going to make them all exactly 30. I'll try doing G2 and see if that makes it look nicer. Does. Makes it nicer and rounder. So I'll commit that. You see up here, it's still not great, but I'm not too worried about that right now. And you see, you know, it's done this thing where it's basically passed over the, you know, some sort of coincident point here. And ideally, that's not what you want. You'd want it to stop there. And I could actually limit the bevel and stuff, but I'm not super familiar with how to do that, or what the results would be. Now what I'm going to do is grab the top here, and we're just going to see if we can put a patch over the top. Is this my patch command? It is. So again, if we were to type in patch, you know, we can get the patch command, but I popped it into my favorites before, and you can also just hit Shift P to patch. Just going to hit that. It'll take a minute because it's figuring out the surface. And that's a bit wonky. I'm just going to go straight to G2 and see if it'll make it G2. No, see, it's errored out there. Oh, it won't even do me a G1. So you've got a few options you can play with to try and, adjust what it does with the surfacing. Yeah, still won't do a G2 or a G1. I find often with doing stuff like this, messing with the tension doesn't do a whole lot, but I think we can make it flat. Alright, so that's maybe about as good as we're going to get for sort of making it automatically try and deal with this. I mean, it's not amazing. I do kind of like this quadrant, so I wonder if it will do a nice enough. Well, didn't like that apparently. Or didn't like something that I did. Just going to hit 5, which selects all of the different selections again, so I can mess around. Alright, so that seemed to work even though it complained. Try and do the same thing. I want to... Basically, this is kind of the opposite of what I'd expect. You sort of select the side that you want to keep rather than the side you want to mirror. So by selecting the left-hand side, it's kept that bit there. And there you go, it's said there's an error again, even though it's worked fine. Although it looks like it's not done that bit properly, or that whole side. This side definitely looks like it's mirrored. To me? No, maybe not. Okay, maybe it didn't work. Let's try quickly again. You merge together, go. Alright, that worked. Just didn't like that I'd selected the thing. You see it's munted that edge again. But let us carry on. Cat's decided to join us. You can see that one, like it's not even joined the halves together. So let's go back, because I forgot to hit that button. Hello, kitty cat. What can I do for you? Probably want food or something, eh? Trying to cut my super exciting stream short. I'll try and grab the edge here. Do you mind moving your butt, kitty? Thank you. And if I hold down Alt, it'll try and select planar faces, which doesn't always work, but it's nice when it does, like it did just now. And let's see if we can bevel this out. I'm just waiting for this down the bottom left. It's working away. You can see it's failed. See if it'll let me go the other way. No, it's failed again. So I'm not going to be able to bevel these edges out, which is a bit of a shame. This is something that I'm certainly having trouble with. Like, I want to just be able to buff these edges out. Like, I want my smoothing tools and stuff, so I can just, like, why can't I just smooth this line? But that's roughly our jellyfish shape. And something that is nice about the way plasticity works is you can also take these lines. So if I wanted to try and replicate my jellyfish or make a nicer version of this shape without those issues, what I can do is I can select these lines and I can grab the outside bit here, and I could even grab this section here, say, and I can hit Shift D to duplicate that. You can see it makes a whole bunch of curves there, and that's because I had to select a whole bunch along there, and there's probably a whole bunch along here as well. And I can hide the jellyfish, and you can see that we've got, I don't know why it hasn't selected all this, because I thought we had all that selected to start with. Let's delete all these curves and try that again. I wonder if Alt will give me all of this. No, I'm going to have to do this by hand manually again. There's probably a tiny little one in there. And of course, what I could do, now knowing that we're going to get a whole bunch, I can Shift D to duplicate here. Oh, and that has come as one curve, which is nice. So I don't need to mess with that, but we'll do it in sections. Shift D. Why is that duplicated a sheet? I don't want a sheet, I want this curve. Shift D. No, you're still going to be a sheet? Alright, well, let's hide this sheet and see what... So that's duplicated the whole thing. Oh, okay, I know why it's doing that. Let's just go hit 2, so we're only selecting curves. And I'll Shift D now, should only give me the curve. And same here, let's grab this curve. And you can see, I don't know what the difference is there, I guess because I sort of did them one at a time, it hasn't split them into a billion curves. What I was going to do is just, split one section, join the curves together, split another section, join the curves together, to save myself some hassle. But you can see now we've basically got this profile, and if I grab these and loft them, which will take a moment because it's complex shape, assuming the loft even works. So all I did there is just hit L to loft, and what loft will do is try and join these two surfaces together in a way that sort of fits their geometry. Man, this is taking ages. Haven't even selected my guide yet. Well, I'll select my guide. Might as well not wait twice. And let's see if this actually makes something, whether it ever actually finishes. I have found the latest version of plasticity seems a bit slower in some areas. What I should do is simplify these curves probably before I try doing something like this. So maybe I'll do that, because I don't know, who knows how long this is going to take. So I'll try and get this to cancel if it ever listens to us. Maybe make a coffee or something while you're waiting. Sometimes things will cancel nicely and sometimes they won't. Oh. Trying to connect to the internet. What are you doing, plasticity? I'll let you though. I don't know why you want to connect to the internet, but alright. Alright, so I've broken that down. So what I'm going to do, rather than just loft that straight away, let's try and simplify these curves. So we're going to hit the rebuild button. You can see there, look how many points there is there. That is not what we want at all. That's like way too complicated. So I'll simplify here. I'm going to simplify by points, because then I can tell it an amount of points. Let's go with 36. That seems like a good amount for that span. Might even get away with less. You can see that we're not losing much definition there. So refit is pretty much let it do its thing, figure it out how many points it should have and whatever. Telling it specifically gives us a much more control, and you can see it's pretty much the same curve. There's not much difference, and it's even, it's evening out that there that I would say is maybe a little pointy, and certainly fixing up this where I was worried about that curve being too pointy. It's smoothing that out a bit, and maybe we want a bit more definition, we go 48 or something, but I think 36 looks pretty good, and that's a good number for degrees since we're going all the way around. We'll do the same with this one up here. You see this got so many points on it. Let's go 36 here to start with. That might be a bit much. I mean, it's definitely holding the shape. Let's try halve it. No, it looks a bit too much like a flower now. All right, we'll just go 36, because it also likes to have even numbers, or the same number of things when you're lofting. So we will let that be. have a look at this fella here. That's actually not, not bad at all. There's not many points on this line, so I think that's okay. We don't really need to do it there. And it's also, if we hit 1, we can see that these are no longer where they should be. So I'm just going to hit a planar view. Just gone into the front view there, which in our case is kind of the side view, and you can see that this is way off. So I'm going to hold down, and this is sort of a thing as well. I can't actually adjust this curve. So if I rebuild it though, even though it's not necessary to rebuild it, now I will be able to move it. So sometimes there are, oops, I didn't commit the rebuild. Sometimes there are little things like this in plasticity. Ooh, body is, and this is a problem at the moment too, the body is disjoint and allow disjoint set to false. I don't know what disjoint means. That's not very English. Set this to 8. I assume it worked that time. Yep, I can drag my plane around. Alright, so I need to drag this down. If I hold control, I can snap it, and I'm just going to go to a different view. Alright, so it is still on that line, so I did snap it in the middle, which is what I wanted, but it hasn't turned blue, so it's not close enough. Man, how is that so far off when I snapped it? You can see here, once we zoom right in, that it doesn't display at the full resolution. So this curve, even though mathematically it'll be actually round, it's not displaying that way, and that can cause some little issues. There you go, that's turned blue now, so even though you can see it's not actually on that line, mathematically it is on that line, which is something as an artist you definitely have to get used to, because things are not as they should be. And you can see we're way off here, and we don't have a point to snap to, because when we've rebuilt this curve, it's just not put anything there. Now what we could do is mess with these and try and get it close enough, or we can create a point. So you've got your split edge curve tool, so we can just make a point there, and again holding down control we can move it over here, and hopefully that turns blue, and you can see, that's added its own tangent points there and sort of munted that up a little bit, so that's not going to look as smooth as we might like. So if we come into a side view, or in this case, as I said, we're rotated, so this is the front view, we can try and smooth that out a bit. And one of the things here can be an issue is you want these to be tangent, which means in line with this thing, and sometimes I don't think it's going to let us do it here because it's not the edge, but ideally what you'd want is this point to tell us what its tangents actually are, and it won't, so I'm just going to have to guess a bit. Unfortunately that's not following down either, so I might start at this end and then it should hopefully snap. And if we do something like that, we can at least make sure that these are on a line, even if it's not actually the tangent line. We can make sure that, or not necessarily what this point would want to go from there to there. We could also, delete this section and try and mess around, but at least this way, by putting a line and snapping them, we can be like, it's aligned to something, and hope that this is big enough that actually looks okay. Again, I am certainly not the expert to talk to about lofting and setting that kind of thing up. I'm just going to save this jelly 2. And let's see if it'll loft now. And there you go, it went instantly this time because it wasn't made of 5,000 points. And if we select that, what it will do is match this curve here. So ideally what we would do now is basically rotate this like we did before and put it into all of these gaps. I say ideally as if I'm not about to do it. So we will hit F to get our little menu up, type in array, click there for the center of our array. Ooh, that's funky. I can get behind that. Obviously that's not the direction we want our array to be in. So we will ditch that. Array, radial array. Oh, is that? Oh, it's not even on the center line anymore. It looks like. Oh, no, it is. It is. All right, so I've gone into the top view now by hitting 7 on the number pad, and that should sort us out. Now, we had 6 before, because 6 by 6 is 36. And there we have our beautiful, beautiful little shape. Now, we could also loft these. Why it's not lofting this front one, I don't know. I would have thought it would do them all. There's obviously something wrong. Let's have a look. So none of these are actually connected properly, which is interesting, given that this should all be pretty symmetrical. But I guess when I did the rebuild, I guess rebuild isn't necessarily symmetrical. So we can snap all these to closest. And closest is theoretically when you select that thing, the closest point on the other spline. Again, we're holding down control to get that. So I could theoretically drag this out here and then, make sure we're getting closest point, and that should be, a lot of this is close enough for government work, as they say. It's not the most science of things, which is an artist, you don't really care about the science of things necessarily. But if you wanted things to be like super precise because you wanted to do actual CAD-like work with plasticity, you've got a bit more messing around to do than you would in, a real CAD application, for want of a better word. Still hasn't done this. Anyway, I'm going to ignore the fact that it hasn't done those. But theoretically, we could do it this way as well. But that obviously hasn't worked. Something's wrong. And I would guess that we probably need to match all of these up. Because I only fixed up that first one all the way. So this is basically telling me that some of these things are wrong. And if I hit 1 again so you can see where all the things are. But having said that, only my first one, not even my first one, is snapped properly up here. So I'm not sure what is wrong exactly. Obviously something's happened. I think in these cases, there's not actually anything there, but still they should. You see it's gone blue now. Yeah, I really don't understand some of these things. I guess it's just imprecision in the software, in when it redraws curves. So something to keep in mind, like even if they look like they're right, often they won't be. And the only way to tell is if they've gone blue. Of course, sometimes they don't need to be blue, but who am I to argue? Alright, so they should all be correct. So if I loft and then select all of these, we've got a beautiful jelly cake. So at last, we have our beautiful, beautiful jellyfish. Weird line around here, although to be honest, I think that kind of adds character. And that's like I was saying before, with putting those tangents. Let me just unhide all that. I'll just hide the sheets again. That's what I was saying before, when I was doing that straight line and putting these in. I don't know, because I'm not the maths behind this, what's really going to happen here. And if I wanted these to be, if I wanted that to be smoother, assume the sheet's that one. Like if I wanted this line to be smoother, you can see how between those two tangent points, control vertices, that's sort of where that deformation is. So maybe what I should have done is made my straight line between these 2 points and then tried to sort of align these two CVs along this line, and that would make this whole joint smoother. But I actually like this little deformation. I think that makes it sort of look more organic and have that kind of more jelly, because they sort of have their brain thing in here, I think, and then they have the skirty thing and the tendril strip off there, and then they have that internal structure. So I think this is actually pretty cool, and I think I will go along these lines. This is obviously not what I want. What I probably want to do now is maybe put a circle up here, and again, you know, we made these with 36 points, so we'd make a circle with 36 points for that to flow into, and then hopefully sort of round the top of this off. In fact, why don't we give that a go? Like I haven't streamed in ages, and I'm don't think I'm being particularly entertaining, but I am just second guessing myself a lot. Let's put a circle. In fact, I think I want to go kind of not straight up, but sort of let's extend that kind of weird ledge upwards. I don't want to go all the way to the top of the bell, because I want that to sort of form itself a little. I could sort of come down here and try and get closer. I don't know. I think it's probably too low. I think I want to go a little bit higher, which means I'm going to have to sort of move these points up, because again, we have to get these to match this. I will rebuild this curve points 36. So this should, in theory, flow reasonably well if they've all got the same amount. I've been told, pardon me a moment, I need to cough. I've been told it's also a good idea to have the same amount of things on here, but I don't want to. Seems a lot more extra points to me in this case. So now that I've got this cage built, I need to, you know, match up either the circle to the outer splines, or I need to match the outer splines to the circle. So what I might do, I don't know, it's pretty close, isn't it? Let's hit one. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to see what happens. I don't think this is going to work, but I'm just going to try lofting that. Oh, it has come up. So you get this swirly kind of thing going on here. And this is where it's going to break, because these aren't lined up to the circle. So when it tries to guide it, it's guiding it wrong. But that was interesting, wasn't it? That that does work. But the whole, you see how the whole thing's off, like it's interpreting this as a swirl, which again is kind of cool as an artist. Like, you know, why not? Um, why not? Because it's wrong. Because I've got a goal and this is the goal I'm reaching for. But that is cool. Like, I like it. Um, if you were making a cake or something, like I might accept that. Like, it is a cool shape. It's kind of weird that it just starts here and then gets gradually more and more. Anyway, I'm prevaricating again. Let's get rid of this stupidity. Hit 5 so I can select everything. So what I want to do is line some of this stuff up, which I am, in fact, going to just get rid of most of these. So let's grab our front view again. 2 to get my curves. So I'm not going to do front view, we'll do the right hand side so I'm lined up. And get rid of all these. And get rid of that back one. And let's just line this one up. Okay, it's way off. I thought they were way closer than that. It's weird working at this kind of scale. I'm very used to working at like a real world scale. Doing like game props and stuff. That's pretty close. That's very close. Alright, then I'm just going to pop a point there. Can't see it because I'm not selecting curves. Not selecting points. And I think that's probably decent. So we'll just do a quick test loft. I don't know if you'll notice it up here, like I'm often just switching between these with the 1 to 4 key to switch between points and edges. You can, again, you can do 5 and select them all, but sometimes I found the more I use plasticity, the more I'm getting used to the switching selection modes, and it is faster to just select the one you want a lot of the time. Okay, so that has broken it. And that shouldn't really break it, I don't think. Let's grab you and we'll mirror you across. And you can see again, these are not lined up, so I just need to do a quick. And hopefully one day we'll get a tool or an automatic setting or something that just, grabs them within a threshold and says, yeah, dude, it's cool, man. Because it's a pain in the bum having to constantly fix those points that are just, millimeters off. Hopefully having both sides. No. Apparently he wants to be a pain in the bum. Alright then. You be a pain in the bum. F array. Radial array. Now, see how it's... I just pointed at the screen. See how it's... You can see the circles on the sides. So if I click now, we're going to get that again. So if I go to the top view, radial array, it'll work fine. Again, we want 6, and these won't be lined up. So I need to just do my quick this is, I think, kind of ridiculous having to do this when they're just like, as we would say in Australia, like they're only a bee's dick apart. I mean, they're close enough that I pretty much just hold down the mouse button on it and it's already in place. Like, this is just silly. definitely want to function some sort of auto cleanup or some sort of like, oh, I found a thing within 0.1 millimeters. Looks like I got them all. Inner ring is all blue, and the outer ring is all blue. So in theory, if we go around and get them all, and this is where it's not going to work and I'm going to get super frustrated. Yep. Dunno. I'm just going to have to take a dunno on that. I don't know if that's because this is I can see blue on all of those. It's blue on all of those. It's blue on all of those. Is it just because of this circle? Because it worked fine before without the circle. In fact, I put the top in on its own. I didn't make that top, it did. But now this isn't working again, so, I don't know what's going on there. Let's select the top. Is it something wacky in here? I mean, they all look pretty on the point to me. I don't know, my jellyfish dream is over, I think. Once I was a happy man, now I'm a sad man. But then that also just works with those two, and the whole lot's... It's all happy now. I don't know. I'm very confused. Let's turn me circle back on. Pardon my getting Australian for a second there. I mean, does that look symmetrical to you? It's a bit hard to tell with all the reflections, but let's turn the edges on. Are there no, are there no edges to see? There must be edges to see. Come on. What we can do is grab all these curves and group them, because then I can turn them off as a group. Why is it not showing me edges? I'm pressing my show edges button. Why is there only a line down here? You cannot tell me that there are no edges on this object. I feel like that's a lie. Surely, like, I'm just going to draw a box because I need to sanity check myself. Okay, there are edges on the box. I guess there are no edges. I don't know how that works. Again, not a CAD guy, and I also don't really understand why it does this pinching in the middle instead of a circle. Particularly since I haven't asked it. I didn't even ask it to put the top on. And our thing is a curve. Like, do I need to put another 28 circles? I'm going to have to ask someone about that. So I think I might end the stream here, because I think I'm sort of getting to the point where I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, and I'm getting a little bit frustrated with it. But you can see that we started using that constrained surface tool with these boxes, different shaped boxes, and we got this kind of cool shape that fit the jellyfish, and then by just radial arraying them around, lofting them together, we got this bit which is different, which fit the bell of the jellyfish. So we get a much cooler like jellyfish shape, and we get these nice organic bottoms as well, so we don't have to go around and put the bottom on, and then we turned that into a cage that we could loft from. And the other beauty of that is that I can now use this same cage. I can duplicate these and adjust them a little bit I might just quickly show a tiny touch of what I'm talking about before I end the stream. Turn the solids off, which is the two boxes, and we'll turn the sheet off, which is these outside. For those of you who don't know plasticity, sheets are basically, they're surfaces that are open, and solids are complete shapes. So they're watertight, as we would say in like 3D printing or whatever. There's no open faces on those. That's the difference. And then you have curves, which are these things. But what I can do is, because I've built this out of these curves, I can now build thickness fairly easily. So I could duplicate this curve, move it out a bit, grab these points and either snap this back here if I want to go like to a total point. At the top we'd probably want to keep some thickness. So I could do something like this and then loft an outer surface and join the two surfaces together to make a solid, and we would have a bell with thickness. Or, if you wanted to down here, it's the side view. If you wanted to maybe have it, and this is where it sometimes gets a bit hard to select the one you actually want. This is something that's definitely on the upcoming features list, is a better way to separate things or get a list of what's under your cursor. What you can do is you can hold down and use the mouse wheel, which is not the easiest thing to do. But what you might do, if you don't want to actually have these completely together, you could grab both points. If you hit L to loft, it'll loft the 2 points. The other way of doing that now is not extend, bridge. So now we've got a bridge, basically bridge anything function. So if you do bridge vertex, you sort of get the same sort of thing. And then you could grab these, say, grab these points here and move them out. And so rather than having it come to a zero width edge, you could actually have a little, rounded edge, which obviously is what you'd want generally with your geometry. You don't want to have things coming to perfect points, even if you're machining stuff. It's not like we have nanotechnology to actually fabricate something like that. So particularly if you're 3D printing or something, you don't want an edge that's zero thickness. So that's one of the, again, speaking from an artistic perspective, that's another one of the beauty of doing things like this in plasticity is or in a CAD program, but plasticity is, sort of being made for us in theory. You can have those edges, build things out of these cages and then, quickly give them thickness or something. There are thickness tools and stuff, but with something like a jellyfish, they do have parts of the bell are going to be thicker than others, so you can go in and do that if you're doing plants and stuff like that, where they have varying thicknesses, rather than using a thicken function. If you're doing it with lofting, you can very much choose what's thick where. So I am going to leave the stream there. If anyone actually watches this stream, thank you. Feel free to watch it at 38 times speed. I might do some more of these. Bye.